Hey everybody. Well, the folks at Bluetti obviously have been paying attention to the old Biker Dude YouTube channel because they got in touch with me here recently and said they've been watching my content involving the fact that I use their smaller power station, the EB3A, which if you've been watching the channel, you know I have in my little power wagon that I've always pulled, and I've been using it also in my new to me bunkhouse trailer. But Bluetti has sent me a new AC70, which is a step up or so from there, and wanted me to test it out and do a product review on it. So that's what we're going to do. And we're going to start by just unboxing one. This is it. They sent it to me here recently. It's packaged up pretty well, it appears, and inside the box is another box. It's actually got two boxes, and the first thing I come across is obviously the accessory cords and things like that. But on further down inside, they have using the foam block cushions, they very tightly packed this AC70 in here very neatly, it looks like. And I'll move their boxes out of the way here. Get a look at this thing. It feels to weigh 20 pounds or so, but we'll look that up in the specifications. Wow, brand new. But wow, that looks pretty cool. Well, when I knew that I was going to be getting one of these in the mail after my exchanges with Bluetti through email and conversations, I did take the liberty of doing a little bit of research to familiarize myself with the product a little bit. The AC70 is a 1,000 watt, 768 watt hour power station. Naturally, it charges all the conventional ways by solar. You can plug it in the accessorial plug like your cigarette lighter in your car. Can hook a solar panel to it, or of course you can plug it into the wall using 110 electricity to charge it. And if I remember right, it's got a really fast chargeability, and they have upgraded. Like, this would be like the equivalent of an EB70 or in that class, EB55. So I'm thinking that it's going to have some probably slightly improved numbers in specifications from that. But I got their owner's manual here, and I'm going to briefly go through some of this stuff for the techies out there. But for most of us, you know, I guess, you know, when I do product reviews, I sort of do them from the angle of being a consumer, because, you know, I don't have a big fancy lab and, you know, all the different electronics tools to test my loads. I'll probably test this by plugging a 100 watt electric blanket into it and see how long it powers it, something like that. But I kind of look at it, I try to look at it like my audience would look at it, as something, would I want to use this, would I not want to use it? And of course, I hope y'all know that I'll never endorse or recommend anything to you that I wouldn't use myself. One of the things, after digging through and looking at the owner's manual and instruction booklet here, I'm reminded of some pretty neat little details about the AC70. First of all, I have had the opportunity to look in here and see which cords came with it and everything. It has the cable for doing 110 in your wall socket, and it has a car charger right here, which plugs into it, and then of course there's the solar cable right here, all of which use these same connectors here on the front, the DC input. So that's kind of cool that it doesn't use the little barrel plug or the old-fashioned like 8mm barrel plug. It's a little bit better and a little bit more heavy duty. So I like that. Looking through the manual, I noticed that One of the things that first jumps to my attention is that when you charge it with solar, it will accept up to 500 watts. So now, even with this small station, you could use like a 400 watt solar panel to work with this thing in tandem. That's pretty cool. It says here that connect the solar panels in series or parallel to the AC70 via solar charging cable. When receiving a continuous input of 500 watts, the AC70 will automatically stop charging within 2 hours. However, please be aware that the charging time may vary based on weather conditions, sunlight intensity, panel orientation, and other variables. So in other words, this thing will accept up to 500 watts, and you just have to make sure that it falls within the the perimeters of being between 12 volt and 58 volts. So a 48 volt system can charge this. That's really cool too. The current's 10 amp max, and then like I mentioned, 500 watt max, and then you can draw from it 1,000 watt pure sine wave current. So it's got some pretty good ability. That means it would it'd power a full-size refrigerator. Now of course it does have the uplifting mode. You can set it. Of course it comes you can use the phone app with these stations now. Almost all the Bluetti units have that, which I find to be really cool because I can put my phone up on my handlebar on the motorcycle, and even though the Bluetti is inside the trailer, I can see what's going on, how much wattage is going through it, how much it's drawing from my solar panel on the trailer, that kind of thing. So that's really cool too. As I mentioned, when you're charging this thing with 110 current from out of your wall, it's only going to do 2 hours at a time. First of all, it'll probably recharge it in less time than that. You can set it on turbo mode and get it up to 80% charge in 45 minutes and a full charge in 1.5 hours. That comes in handy when, recharging time's really a priority. You need to get it charged back up fast. But with the uplifting mode that you can set it to, you can actually run like a 1,500 watt hair dryer, or it'll actually uplift to 2,000 watts for temporary usage like that. Now, of course, sustainable, usage is 1,000 watts. I try to never use my power stations for more than they're rated at. The uplifting mode is kind of cool. The power lifting mode, as they call it, is kind of cool, but I don't know. As a general rule, I've just never personally, like for instance, my little EB3A, I always just use 300 watts or less. I never tried to use it up to 600 watts, but the AC70 does have the ability to power lift up to 2,000 watts. Now I'm going to run through some of the specifications for you real quickly. As I mentioned, it is a 768 watt hour station. Now, back when I didn't understand very much about this, sometimes the questions that I asked then, I look back at and think they may have sounded kind of simple, but I like to try to keep it simple for everybody. What that means, 768 watt hours is what you arrive at by doing the math of multiplying your, amps and watts, or volts and amp. So basically, that's how you arrive at how long, and that's what that's saying, how much energy capacity it would have at a full charge. So in other words, you could run something that ran off of 25 watts, say like a small refrigerator or something like that. If it had continuous usage of 25 watts, that would run that for 30 hours or so, right in that general area, depending on the actual usage. Now, this is what it's rated at, 768. Very few stations or batteries ever produce 100% of the rated capacity. I have ran across a couple that do, but that's usually batteries. But let me run through some of the specifications for you. It's a 100 watt max. It's a lithium iron phosphate battery. It weighs 22.5 pounds, so my guess was pretty close on the 20 pounds. The dimensions, gosh, it's you know, not exactly real big, and I'm thinking I'll probably start using this in the bunkhouse trailer because this is really sharp. I couldn't own one of these and not use it. I'm going to be testing it out, make sure it does all the things that they say. The charging temperature is from 32 degrees to 104 degrees. So in other words, you don't want to be charging this in an environment that's under 32 degrees. Discharging temperatures from -4 degrees to 104 degrees. So you could actually use this in a pretty cold, you know, environment. Storage temperature, it should never be stored anywhere where it's going to be less than -4 degrees or more than 104 degrees. The working humidity is from 10% to 90%. Voltage is you know, the power is 1,000 watts. Voltage at 100 volt is 10 amp. At 120 is 8.3. At 220 is 4.5, and at 230 is 4.3. The cigarette lighter port DC output is 12 volt DC, 10 amp. So you don't want to exceed 10 amps charging when using that. That would get, like, you know, the little plug hot or something like that. So you want to be careful when you're using those. Of course, I always advise people to be careful when using those little accessorial cigarette lighter plugs. A lot of times the plug that you're plugging it into won't be as heavy duty as the plug that you're actually using on the device. And I noticed that this one seems to be a very high quality plug. I was playing with it just a minute ago and working the little spring back and forth on that. It's a high quality plug, but you never know about the plug that you're plugging it into. Like in some automobiles, they're not really the highest quality of plugs. So you know, that's just a little personal note from, you know, my own usage of these in trucks while I was a truck driver and things like that. I sometimes did run across ones that you know, I would blow fuses and stuff because they weren't really high quality, or it would allow the plug to get too hot because the plug itself inside the dash was not a good quality plug. The DC input interface is the power is 500 watt max. So in other words, anytime you're charging this DC input, you can go up to 500 watts. That's pretty impressive for a station of this size. The current is, of course, like I mentioned, 10 amp max, and the voltage is 12 volt to 58 volts. So it covers the range of 12, you know, 24, 36, and 48. So that's pretty impressive also. Now, one thing that I do see here in the manual that I didn't notice a moment ago was there are actually 3 settings for doing AC input, like when you're plugging it into a 110 power socket. Standard, it takes 2 hours to recharge. And of course, I mentioned the turbo mode where it allows it to charge it all the way to 80% within 45 minutes and receive a full charge in 1.5 hours. There's also a 3rd setting. You can set it for silent. And what that does is offers a quiet, low power operation for a longer battery life. The slower you charge it, the less you stress the battery. And that allows it to deliver more cycles. And but it does say that it would take 4 hours if it's set in that mode to recharge the AC70. This is pretty cool. Right here in the owner's manual, they have a QR code that you can read with your mobile device to set up your communication, your Bluetooth back and forth, to being able to talk to it. So that's pretty cool. And one other little detail, when you store the battery for a long period of time, you want to have the charge level between 40 and 60%. They say that just works out better for storing the battery for extended periods of time. You know, I mentioned the app a minute ago. What's really cool about the app is, say for instance, you're pulling a little RV trailer down the road with your pickup truck. Having the Bluetooth capability with and using the app gives you the ability to monitor what the station is doing. Like, even though it might be located back in your trailer, powering your refrigerator and some of your daily essentials that would need to stay on even while you were not in the trailer or while you're traveling on the road, you'd be able to see all that right on your phone, just like you would a GPS map or anything else. That's really neat. Okay, and before we turn this thing on and get a look at the display and everything, we'll real briefly cover the warranty. This is impressive, y'all. The main unit, including the battery inside, is warranted for 60 months, 5 years. The solar panel, 12 months, and any of the accessories like adapters or cords, they're at 12 months also. But 5 years is a very good warranty. And okay, so let's get a look at the display. To turn the AC70 on, you just push this middle button here below the display box and hold it for a couple seconds, and there we go, it lights up. This one's currently at 41% charge. We're going to plug it in just a minute and see how long it takes to get to 100%. But the display is real impressive. Of course, it has the separate AC and DC input and output, so you could actually be using something that's AC related and something that's DC related at the same time, and it'll show you what you're using of each in wattage right here, and it'll also show you what's coming inbound to it. So I would imagine, and I guess it does, accept charging from 2 different sources at the same time. And as I mentioned, it has pass-through, so you can charge it and use it at the same time. And of course, the first thing you should always do with any power station when you first open the box is charge it before you use it at all. Charge it to full capacity. And one thing I forgot to mention was the AC cable for charging from 110 does plug in around here on the side, which I kind of like that because it allows you to, have the front completely open. I just think that's really cool, and that's what I'm going to do right now is go ahead and plug this in. It is currently 2:21 in the afternoon. The station's at 41%. We're going to see how long it takes to charge it to 100%. And now we've got it plugged in, and as you can see, it's drawing 439 watts. So anytime the display goes out, you can touch any of the buttons right here and it will instantly come back on. But it's drawing 439 watts, so it's showing that it would probably take about an hour to fully charge, but we'll see, and we'll just set it down here and I'll be back with you in about an hour. Okay, it's about 45 minutes later. It's actually 2:59. And as you can see, it's just about to top off at 100. It's reached 99%. And the AC70's continued to take in 439 watts from 110 wall socket. So, gosh, that charged pretty quick. But I thought I'd real quickly go over some of the other features on it. It's got a couple of AC output plugs here. It's got USB-C. Actually 2 USB-A up to 12 watt plugs, and it's got 2 USB-Cs that are at 100, so you could technically charge 2 laptop computers at the same time. These are 100 watt outputs right here. It's got the cigarette lighter plug, of course, like I mentioned before, 12 volt 10 amp, and then here's where your DC in is for like solar panel, car charger, etc., whereas your 110 plugs in over here on the side. So far, and oh, by the way, the fan is on right now, which I don't know if y'all can even hear because it's so quiet. Pretty impressive. I don't have one of those decimal meter things, but I'd have to say it was down pretty low because I could barely tell it was on sitting under my desk right here. So far, so good. I'm going to get a chance to test this out a good bit. I'll be making my trip to Key West here shortly, and I'm going to take it along and use it in conjunction with one of my other storage batteries to see how it powers all my stuff. But here in just a moment, I am going to do a discharge test by plugging in a 100-watt electric blanket to it and see how long it takes to run it down to minimum capacity, and then of course charge it back up to see how long it's going to take to charge back up from that level. Okay, so I'm ready to do my little discharge test. Obviously it's sitting at 99%, basically fully charged. And all you have to do is go right here and you activate your AC plugs by pushing this button. You do the same thing with DC when you want to use a draw from any of these or the cigarette lighter plug. You have to turn this on and it changes the color, shows you that it's activated. But I'm using my Sunbeam electric blanket that I would have with me out on the road in the trailer. But I'm going to go ahead and turn that on. And it, as you can see, it's drawing, 117, 120, 118. Now it says 104, bouncing around. But it's using 100 and some change. So, basically, we're going to see how long it takes this. It's bouncing around in the 105 to 120 area. Doesn't seem to stay at 1 very long, but that should, with the 1,000 or with 768 watt hours, that should be able to keep that going for 6 hours or so, and we'll see what happens. It's 3 o'clock right now.